Hey everyone, welcome to a live stream. This is all about Hakchi 2 CE version 1.1.0. I've just launched Hakchi after not using it for a few days, and it looks like there's an update, and this update brings some quite good improvements by the sound of it. I haven't used it yet, so let's just go through what the improvements are. So of course it mentions a lot of new features and some bug fixes. Bug fixes are always the case. Anyone who's done any development knows that you do have to re-release just to fix a few bugs here and there, so that's fine. So let's have a look at the under the hood improvements. Now, for some reason this window won't resize to show you everything, so maybe the best thing to do would be to Control A and put this in a text document. So I am just going to go through what the improvements are. So here we go. It significantly reduces the amount of data being copied to the temp folder during game sync. If you're not using Game Genie codes, your temp folder will now likely be a few hundred kilobytes instead of a whole copy of your collection. Now, this refers to when you use Hakchi either on your desktop, I guess, or on the USB, but by the sound of it, it's just going to be using linked games. My folder, which I'm just going to take a look at now on the USB, it's the games folder here. Well, I guess mine's 37 megabytes. It's got a lot of folders in there, a lot of images in there. So maybe it'll just be just a link directly to the Hakchi folder, which sorry, to the tools folder where you have everything. So I don't think that's a major big deal. Differential game syncs for NAND SD users. If you're changing only a handful of games, only those games that were changed since your last sync get transferred during sync, rather than wiping your whole collection and re-uploading it. Now for this one, this is great, because a lot of people, including myself, have been annoyed that we have to overwrite and delete the games folder. So what that means, when you're using Hakchi, it overwrites this games folder here. So I sometimes make a backup of my games folder, as you can see just here, but in future it looks like it's just going to add and not completely rebuild the games folder. So that is absolutely fantastic. Revamped HMod install process, fantastic here. Installing and uninstalling HMods no longer require your console to be in FEL mode. Just power it on like normal and connect it to your PC, and then select the mod installation option. So it looks like this is truly revamped. Previously you did have to hold down the reset button and power on, and it did go through like a flashing process, which was maybe a bit longer than it needed to be. So that's really good news. It says the mod management windows are now formatted more nicely and showcase information such as author and category. Hopefully we're going to take a look at that as well. Support for flashing both SD and stock U-boot. SD users no longer need to use Hakchi 1 for U-boot flashing. That's interesting, because if I think this refers to the hard modification, when you open up the SNES Classic and you actually solder an SD card inside. It's basically it becomes an extension of the NAND memory. Obviously I'm not going to support that. What I will support, though, and I will discuss, is the non-destructive, if you like, modifications with the SNES Classic. Opening it up, I'm sure it's not very difficult to do, and it does keep everything internal, but you know, I really like to kind of have a console that I can put back to stock at any time. Default to SD U-boot when membooting. Fix for FTP server reporting errors when trying to list files in a directory. Now, if there is a file called non-portable flag in the Hakchi 2 installation directory, it will run in non-portable mode. I'm just going to zoom in on this because I'm aware that some of you may not be able to see this. UI improvements, that looks good too. Okay, so I can go on and on and on, but obviously I'm going to send you to sleep. So what I will do is I'll just scroll down and see if there's anything major that I should be aware of. Wow. Some FAQ as well. So I really want to thank the authors of this tool. It really is very, very good. I'm just going to see who I need to thank. It should be at the bottom maybe, or at the top. It is not. So let me just throw it out there. Thanks very much to everyone who's contributed to Hakchi 2. I specifically want to thank Cluster M. Now, Cluster M is the original developer of the Hakchi 2 GUI. He took a sabbatical, if you like. He went for some time to himself before Christmas last year. So hopefully he's had some time off. But he is coming back to the scene, and he's working on the original version of Hakchi 2 just to complicate things. So we're not talking about Hakchi 2 CE here. We're talking about Hakchi 2, and that will be 2.30. Hopefully, and again, he is a very, very, very good developer, and someone who really carried this Hakchi 2 forward at first. Obviously, it's been taken to a new level here with Hakchi CE, but I'd really like to wish Cluster M all the best, really, because he's going to be updating the original Hakchi 2 and hopefully bringing it into line with this particular release. But anyway, let's focus on what we've got here, and let's hit the update button. I've waffled on now for 6 minutes. Okay, so it's just going to download the update. Fingers crossed it's not too big. And of course, I'll give it access. Okay, closing main form, saving config, installing update. So obviously we've got the debug. I'll just loosen, there we go, the debug panel there. I will zoom out just so that you can see it all in one window. So it looks like it's launched now. Now obviously I already had many different games in here. Looks like it's not responding, but that is not unusual. It could be that my USB is, yep, there we go. So what happens sometimes is my USB device decides to go AWOL, and I'm just going to eject it from the computer and put it back in. I'm not sure whether it's a problem with the USB hub or the Surface dock that I use. But here we go, let's launch it again. So it does say starting 1.0.1. Maybe that's just an omission. Okay, so it looks like I've got to do the update again. Hey, hello there, thanks for watching. So this is just the update process for Hakchi 2 CE. We had a very early version that was released, which I've done a video on already, on how to use that. Now we have 1.1, which is just here. And it looks like it's all loaded this time. Okay, so these are all the ROMs that I've got in there. They're all separated into different kind of headings. Zoom in a little bit for you. So apparently this is what's this? No box art for what? Okay, I guess nothing was selected. Okay, so there we go. So this does look a little different. There is a name and a sort name. Now that could be very, very useful, because sometimes you may want to sort it, especially as you can see here I've got PS1, but we might actually want to sort it in a different order, so we should be able to use this field here to do that with. Publisher, save count. Oh, now that's useful as well. There's a save count for this. Hopefully that applies to RetroArch as well. That's quite interesting. Just going to scroll back up to the top and take a look at some of the menu options. So these ones were here before: add more games, presets, export, synchronize, yep, all those were there. The kernel options, what's in advanced? Okay. Modules, install extra modules. So apparently this was completely overhauled, so let's take a look at this. Now I just have my SNES Classic turned on, I think. Just let me double check on that. I'm just going to make sure the red light's on, because apparently we don't have to put it into FEL mode. So I'm just going to zoom down there so you can see it's on. It's not in FEL mode, you can see the red light. So I'm just going to bring it back up here. Sorry about the jerkiness there. Okay, I'm just going to exit out of here because I did notice that it detected, as you can see in the debug panel, it did detect the SNES Classic being switched on. Okay, so I will go into install extra modules. Loads mods. So this looks different. So these are some, oh, very nice. I like the way this has been laid out. It looks like a lot easier to read, and it's separated them into different sections. So we've obviously got the UI section here where you can have a music hack to change the music. No thumbnail hack. It's obvious, it removes the thumbnails at the bottom. SNES filters. That's always useful. It looks like it's detected that these are the ones that I've already got maybe installed. Certainly I do think I've got these installed already. Okay, so what I will do is I will go and add some more cores. So let's have a look at some of the cores that we've got. Just trying to think of a decent one to add. Okay, so what I might do is I might add some cheats. So I'll just add the have we got Mega Drive or Sega Master System, Saturn, PSX, NES. I'm going to add the NES cheats. So it looks like if I just drag them into here, no, it doesn't like that. It used to like that, but obviously this method's different. So obviously, if drag and drop isn't possible, then perhaps this is a step back. Looks like it. So I imagine that what actually is playing here is you have to copy the HMod into the folder, which is user mods, and I'll paste it in there instead. It's very near. If you do a search for Hakchi 2.30, you should be able to find, I mean, just a basic Google search, you should be able to find a page which details Cluster M's work on Hakchi 2.3. He's got some screenshots of what it's going to be able to do. From the look of it, it's just talking about multi-boot right now, but that would open up the possibility to actually use your SNES Classic as an NES Classic as well. And I'm hoping, and again, really keeping my fingers crossed, that it's possible to use the USB host method with both firmware, you know, at the same time. So if you kind of switch into NES mode, you'll still be able to use the USB host. Basically, there's a lot of NES ROMs, and I am aware that there is a certain amount of internal memory. But if you want to use all the NES ROMs on the NES Classic firmware running on the SNES Classic, then of course the USB host is the way to go. At the same time, you know, obviously I want to keep my SNES firmware side really for everything else. You know, it's just my choice, but it's just nice to be able to use both interfaces and run, of course, the NES games using Nintendo's NES emulator on the NES firmware. So obviously that's about Cluster M's release. I'm sure it's going to do lots of other things, because if you do look at, in fact, let me bring it up. It's probably easier to bring this up and share this with you. Okay. I'm not sure what you can see there because my screen has frozen. Hopefully you can see what I'm looking at here. But on Twitter, Cluster M had these screenshots here, and these screenshots, these are just showing 2.21F, but I'm just going to have a quick look and see if I can find the particular version here. So Hakchi 2.30 Cluster M. Okay, maybe this is it. So I think it was on the wiki, so he actually had a page. There we go, and he does talk somewhere about the multi-boot guide. So this is the link right here, a GitHub Cluster M Hakchi 2 wiki multi-boot-guide. Hopefully you can see what I'm looking at, but my my iPhone screen seems to be very much fixed and frozen on the Windows Explorer. So fingers crossed you can see what I'm looking at here. But the multi-boot guide is available. He talks about since version 2.3 you can now turn your SNES Mini into an NES Mini, Famicom Mini, and vice versa on the fly. You can even change SNES Mini into a Super Famicom Mini or a Japanese Super Famicom Mini. Well, of course, this is just using I'm just going to tell you what type of file it is. I know he says here it's an HSQS file extension. That is currently possible anyway, but it looks like he's doing it in some kind of nice GUI mode. You know, Hakchi 2, written by Cluster M, was the original GUI, and he really made quite a lot of things possible with obviously the people he was contributing with. Hopefully he can kind of bring back some kind of nice GUI features into Hakchi 2. But of course, you know, Hakchi 2 CE already looks quite good, so this is certainly going to be a tale of two releases, really, I guess. My screen isn't updating, so what I'm going to do is I am going to stop this live stream, and I'll do another live stream, and hopefully my screen will update, and then I can obviously see exactly what you're seeing. Okay, guys, thanks very much. Look out for the live stream.